Everyone, it is 7:08. Welcome to the January 3rd, 2022 regular meeting. You can also view the meeting on YouTube. Before we get going, I just want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. And we want to stay safe and well during these difficult times that we are experiencing. I am hoping that all the residents are using all the protocols necessary for us to bring these numbers back down, and that's wearing N95 mask, washing your hands, staying socially distant. We decided to reinstate the mask policy in the town buildings. And we're asking, all our town committees to follow these guidelines as on a temporary basis as we evaluate the numbers daily of the positive cases in our community. Our number one priority is for the safety of our residents and our municipal workers as we're getting through this difficult time with this Omicron variant. Councilor Finger. Prayer, please.
I wrote this prayer on New Year's Day. Let's pray. Dear Jesus, this prayer is for our new year 2022. Every morning I say the Lord's Prayer and then pray not for me because I am that lost soul, but for those who have felt ill and for their families. With you, Jesus, they will be at ease. I pray for those who serve our great country home and away and their families, knowing you are keeping them in your prayers. Let's pray for those who need our help with mental illness. Believing in you, Jesus, they will have hope to heal. Let's pray for those who feel alone, and through our prayer to you, Jesus, you will comfort them. Let's pray for those who think life is against them and feel they can't make it. And through our prayers to you, Jesus, I know you will give them the life to believe in you. Let's pray for those who seek only in the darkness of our world, because if they could only give you, Jesus, a chance, they will see the light in your love. As we go in 2022 in war, let's give peace a chance. As we go in 2022 in the world of uncertainty, let's just remember that we all in this together, and with the Lord's love, we will survive. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sheila, roll call, please.
Councilor Finger.
Here.
Councilor Hopkins.
My apologies, here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Mangini. Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Councilor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
Councilor Bosco. Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Here.
Mayor Crisati.
Here.
Councilor Despard.
Here.
That's 9 members present and 2 absent.
The fire evacuation announcement. In the event of a fire, there are exits in the back of the chambers, and to my left in the audience is right. Exit through the doors and go downstairs and into the parking lot. Minutes of the preceding meetings. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting on December 20th, 2021? Councilor Finger?
Second.
Councilor Pisner. Any discussions, additions, or deletions? By show of hands, all in favor? Against? Abstentions? Okay. We have 8 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay. Special guests, there are none tonight. Public communications. The first round of our public communications will be approximately an hour if necessary. Any person wishing to speak, please state your name and address for the record. And you'll have 5 minutes to speak the first round and 3 minutes for each subsequent round thereafter. Please refrain from personalities, and we ask that everyone be respectful to one another when they come in front. Okay. Anyone who wishes to speak? Okay. Carolyn.
Congratulations. I have a couple things I want to talk about tonight. One is, my issue is second. Caroline Cocktail, 5 Main Street, Enfield, Connecticut. I went through the TIF agreements today, and I'm going to come to the January 16th meeting because I have a lot of issues with the way it was written. And I don't know who wrote it. Maybe it was that McMahon from the Connecticut municipalities or something, but I don't think it's well written. And I do believe that it could probably, I'm not saying it will happen because I think this is an honest council, but it could become a slush fund for developers. Because in the beginning we talk about the developers and the property owners, and then the whole rest of it is the developers. So that's my issue. There are several other issues in there that says everything is private. I think it should be public. I think it should be computerized. And you can look at the city of Chicago to see how they computerize all of it. That's the one thing. The second thing is and Mr. Santinella and Mr. Casati know, I know that you talked to the state. I did get an email. Tomorrow I'm talking with the attorney again because the state is really starting to put the screws to me. And I cannot find another place to live that is accessible for me to easily be in without my brother being next door to me. 1, I don't drive. 2, I am 79. I'm on the way out. I'm going to pay for my funeral next week. I found a condo. I can't afford it right now because it's way below the assessment of the state. So I have a real issue with this. And it's either I go for the injunction and I fight it in the courts, and I could lose. And I know I could lose. But I really think it's up to, not all, a lot of you are new on the council. You weren't involved with the opinion. But I still cannot understand, even when Mr. Santinella talked to me, why you have to take my house. I don't get it. And I really need something from this council that tells me why. We proved there's no Amtrak right away. There is no bike path. Since 1973, when we took over the bridge, the road in front of my house has not been taken care of. We never complained about it. Neither has the sidewalk. You can't right now go up Main Street with a walker because everything is screwed up on the sidewalks, except for the Grays Club. They fixed theirs. If I want to go to Corona's or something like that with a walker. So all I'm saying, and I don't want to get petty because my brother says I get too petty about stuff, but I really need a decent answer why. I worked in government for many years for City of New York and the City of Chicago, City of Fort Lauderdale, and came home here. And I did construction insurance. So I know when a drawing can be revised. I work with construction managers. I worked with Gilbane Construction, most of the big managers, when I had to insure a different international terminal, Millennium Park, the Democratic National Convention, set up a rail captive for railroads. I know it can be done. And I don't understand why you have to take my house. No matter what I read. Didn't do it on Bridge Lane, didn't do it on Parsons Road. And I think there's a problem with that. And I would like someone to talk to me. Except I know Mr. Santinella, I'm not really mad at you. But I don't think, there's a difference with reasoning, deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. When someone tells you something, it's not always true. That's why I was very lucky to survive in the positions I had, because the mayors of those cities trusted what I had to say, because I wasn't, part of nepotism. I was a professional doing what I did. And I still don't understand the logic, because we're not fixing the boat landing with this construction. We're taking 160 feet of plus my house to build a sidewalk that did not exist for 150 years. You were very involved in economic development because I read your resume. And so I don't understand what is happening here. And you know, I don't care what you do 5 years from now, I'll probably be dead. But, you know, I just don't understand it. I just want to be left alone in the last years of my life. That's it. Thank you. I wasn't even going to talk about
Thank you.
this. Whoops. Thanks.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? No.
Matt Schmidt, 1304 Bigelow Commons. Good evening, Town Council members. I'm here tonight to support Ms. Cogtella against the town's efforts to take her home at 5 Main Street by eminent domain, and to convey how this taking relates to the broader topic of kindness. Yes, kindness. The word gets thrown around a lot these days. We make much about performing random acts of kindness and that we should all be kind to one another. We put up lawn signs, share internet memes, and put stickers on our cars to remind everyone else around us to be kind. So I ask this council, where is the kindness in the taking of Ms. Cogtella's home? A home where generations of family grew up and from there contributed to the very town that is now on the verge of forcing her from that home. This seems to me to be more cruel than kind. Maybe you don't think it's a matter of kindness or cruelty, that this is just business, something the town has to do to move forward. But what is a town if not a community first? And what kind of community kicks one of their own out of their home? The home is arguably our most sacred space. It is where we live the bulk of our lives. It is where we come together with family and friends, building our most enduring memories, where we enjoy some of our happiest moments, and where we find refuge from some of our greatest struggles. I am sure we are all aware of how special our own homes are to each of us. Yet when I look at Ms. Cogtella's situation, it seems the town, not just this council, but the community at large, has taken a ho-hum approach to her dilemma. There is no poll in the Enfield Forum about the issue, no letters to the editor in the JI, no rallies, no signs, nothing. Just Ms. Cogtella valiantly fighting on. Now, this is not an effort to point fingers at anyone. I am just as guilty as everyone else when it comes to Ms. Cogtella. I have stood mostly silent and watched her fight this on her own here at these council meetings the last few months, which is why I feel compelled to take this opportunity here tonight to at the very least stand with her. I believe it is never too late to step up, and I hope others believe the same and will come forward to help Ms. Cogtella save her home before it is too late. Because for all the pain and sadness of the last 2 years, what this pandemic has revealed is that there is great opportunity in how we treat each other. And for all the good that government can do for the collective people it represents, it can at times be the cruelest of entities to the individual. But this doesn't have to be so. We can decide to be kind. They say it doesn't cost anything. It's as easy as holding the door for someone or offering them a ride home in the rain. But those types of things should already be expected in a polite society. And those forms of kindness are fleeting anyway. What this situation demands from us is a more durable, more robust kindness, a kindness of real action. No platitudes or sympathetic hands on the shoulder will suffice. But this kindness is hard. It involves risk, it involves sacrifice, it involves courage, and it may even involve helping those you disagree with. This is the kindness that Ms. Cogtella requires from you, and from me, and from the rest of her community. We need to do kindness the dignity it deserves. Do it through deed. Do the hard work. And do whatever it takes to save Ms. Cogtella's home. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council? Yes.
Good evening. My name is William Squires. I live at 33 Willow Circle in Long Meadow. After 6 decades of family ownership, we sold our business properties on Spring Street to our tenant, Airgas LLC. This is bittersweet to us because it's the first time forgive me. It is the first time the Squires family will have no physical business presence in Enfield in 111 years, since my grandfather first settled in this country and in Thompsonville shortly thereafter. So I just wanted to thank everyone affiliated with the town of Enfield and those citizens of the town of Enfield as well for the wonderful treatment, support, and assistance you will all give us over the years, and it's made our business and other businesses feel so welcome through ever-changing times. We'll still be around. I'll still be a part of the Enfield Rotary Club, for example, and I might be singing at some town events. And we shop here, we go to restaurants here, we see medical staff here, and we experience how vibrant Enfield is and will continue to be. We hope to do all of this in good health for lots of decades to come. I don't know exactly what the new owners will do with the property, but I suspect that they will stay with the same business, will invest in the property, will safely expand their business and provide many more jobs in the community. Community, that's really what it's all about. The definition of community, as I see it, is we all live in an area where there's a feeling of fellowship with others while sharing common goals. And it's unity. We all work together. It's not easy. It never is. But we all strive together and work together to make this a better community for all of us for many, many years to come. Mayor Crissati, I agree with you as well. We should have a happy, a healthy, a prosperous, and a safe new year. And thank you all for all you've done.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Squires. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Squires, for your service here in town. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in front of the council? A second time? Anybody who'd like to speak a second time? Okay, public communications are now closed. Councilor communications? Councilor communications? Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to speak briefly. One of my constituents reached out to me a couple weeks ago concerning a veterans tax exemption. I wanted to communicate. He's not here today. I have reached out to him, but for people who are interested, we are exploring this to make sure that that exemption is provided to veterans fully, and it is something they have to apply for. There's also the opportunity for the town to consider a municipal option tax exemption, which is in addition. That is being considered and has gone through the town manager's office to a committee. So just for folks who are interested, and for Mr. Young out there who suggested that, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hopkins. Any other councilors? Councilor Santinello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few things. First, through the mayor to the town manager. We all know the numbers of COVID. We get these reports every day, and I'm just wondering, could you shed some light on the impact that this current spike is having on town staff, our police, EMS, fire services? Has there been any impact to service on any of those departments so far?
Yes, good evening. As part of my report, I was going to discuss with you the fact that we are beginning to see impact on municipal services. Just today, we have now, and it is a rolling count, we have 25 town employees who are out with COVID positive tests. That does not account for additional employees who are in quarantine due to exposure. They do range with those that have been vaccinated to those that are unvaccinated. Across that, most of the COVID positives are unvaccinated, but we have had a few breakthrough cases. Basically today, it rose to a level of concern in some key areas for essential workers. Water Pollution Control has had an outbreak. Police is seeing an outbreak. And we've had our first couple of cases at EMS, which, while you try to remain positive, you do know that there's probably going to be additional impact there as well. So those are critical frontline services. So that's something that we've been watching. We've been consulting with the HR director and the health director today on the rollback to the 5 days, which I believe we are going to be adopting, and a communication is being sent to city employees. That being said, there are some additional testing parameters that go along with that. It is not simply a reduction of 10 days to 5 days. There are other layers that go along with that, and we want to make sure that everyone within the town employment understands what those parameters are. The other wrinkle is that we are starting to accept the home tests for positives, but there are some additional layers there that we're requiring, knowing that we have to keep track of that and obviously hope that they will continue to be tested with the more responsible tests as well. There is about a 15% error with some of those tests for false positives. So we are going to continue to err on the side of caution and accept those tests because we want to be able to suppress the spread of this highly contagious Omicron variant. In terms of the Board of Education, I have had conversations with the superintendent, who is seeing an increase, and at that point, his ability to staff his schools, and that's an impact. Today, we thought we were going to be able to open, but it was actually the bus drivers that took us out in terms of the inability to open. So we're taking that on a case-by-case basis. He is extremely communicative. I think it's really a credit to the town and the Board of Education that there is such a close working relationship, because the leveraging of both information and resources is so critical. And I mention that only because while we don't have any direct oversight with the Board of Education, it does impact town employees for childcare issues and having to scramble in order to make accommodations. So that has been an impact as well. So yes, it is something that is going to continue to escalate. I believe, as I was going to talk about a little bit in my report, we're what the health director calls into the fifth plateau, and we know the post-holiday spike is exactly that. And we also know that it's going to come down. But right now, the pressure is on to keep our workforce healthy for those water main breaks, police calls, medical calls. When you listen to the radio, the police radio, which is I have in the office, it really gives you a portal into the window of what's happening in the community. And even today, I caught several cases where the dispatchers were informing the police that they were about to respond to a COVID positive case. So it is also throughout the community as well. And when I get to my report, I can actually go into some detail about how we are trying to mitigate that from a policy standpoint.
Okay, one other question. Thank you very much for that information. One other question. We are going to be distributing the home kits tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
And I just was wondering, I was contacted by some folks who are senior citizens wondering, are there any accommodations for seniors, a special line, or are they going to just get in line with everybody else? I'm just wondering if there is any accommodation for those people who may be a little bit more vulnerable.
We've not made any special considerations for any aspects of the population. We're taking them on a case-by-case basis. When we were going to be at the high school last week, we had made accommodations for a walk-up site off of, I think that's West Pearl at the rear. We will accommodate to the best of our ability, but we can't do that in the concept right now of just trying to get them out. At the end, if people need to be accommodated, we'll do our best. But at this point, the traffic safety patterns and really just getting these kids out into the community are the highest priorities. One group gets accommodated, there's going to be 10 more that come through and ask for those accommodations. And I know that that sounds harsh and it's not intended to, but we have to do this as transparently and open as possible. And I think that that raises additional problems for elected officials when you start being accused of, well, you put 10 aside here, there is special accommodations made for people from that neighborhood, and that's not what we want. The edict was clear. Get these kids out into the general population and the community of Enfield to the best of your ability as quickly as possible, and that's what we've done to turn it around for tomorrow.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Also, I had been down on South River Street today. I noticed that there's an extensive amount of dumping that is beginning to happen down there. Again, mattresses, TVs, bikes, and I'm just wondering if I could ask somebody to please again take a look at that part of South River Street and see if we can try to clean that up. It seems like we have a great deal of very irresponsible landlords down there that seems like when we have changeover at the beginning of the month that it's easier to dump stuff over onto the train bed than to take it away. And it's really beginning to get, it's just a nuisance. And quite frankly, I get very frustrated every time I go down there and see people treating that neighborhood like that. So any help that you can give us, I would appreciate it. Mrs. Cogtella, I spent a considerable amount of time with you, and I wish that I had something better or different to say to you here tonight. I do have to say quite candidly, no one on this council, past or present, have treated you in a ho-hum kind of manner. There are people who were here and had to be part of that very difficult decision, and I have a great deal of respect for the people that were here at that time. I have nothing more to add to you. I don't know what more to say. I have given you the best counsel and advice that I possibly can. And, I just don't have any other words for you than what I gave to you in your living room right before Christmas. So whatever that is worth to you, it is the best that I can possibly do. That's it. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other counselor comments, communications? Okay, well, I have a letter that I would like to share with everybody, and this is from our friend from the Journal-Inquirer, Joe Chasen. Dear Enfield Town Council, as many of you already know, I am no longer a reporter for the Journal-Inquirer. Therefore, I will not be covering Enfield any longer. I promise this letter will be brief. I just wanted to tell you what a pleasure it was to cover your great town. I was honored when the JI entrusted me to tackle that responsibility. During my first 18 months at the JI, I covered East Windsor and Windsor Locks. The jump from the towns with 10,000 or so people to a town that has around 45,000 people was intimidating at first, but I quickly realized that I loved the challenge. I wish you all the best. If you work together, you will accomplish great things. Listen to each other, understand each other's opinions, and ask questions. Be kind, be accepting. Don't let politics cloud progress. You are representing the people of Enfield, so make them proud to be the residents of this great town. Special thanks go out to Mike Ledwick, Bob Crisati, Gina Sakala, Chief Alaric Fox, who were all so very helpful when I was on deadline. It is such a pleasure to work with all of you. Your pal, J.I. Joe Chasen. And I told him that I would read this letter to everybody, and we wish Joe the best in his new venture. So that was the first thing that I wanted to say. The second thing is, I want to congratulate the Enfield Loaves and Fishes. They were awarded a $10,000 award grant to continue their mission on feeding the increasing number of people experiencing food insecurity in Enfield and surrounding towns during the COVID-19 pandemic. The award was made via the Hartford Archdiocese Archbishop Annual Appeal, which funds its outreach program. So congratulations to Maya and her staff and all the volunteers that make that program such a worthwhile program that we have in Enfield. So congratulations to her, and I told her that I would make mention of that in our meeting. I know that the town manager will be talking a little more about what we're going to be doing in terms of continuing to work forward, in testing, vaccinations, boosting, to get us past this surge. Yes, this month of January is going to be a roller coaster. I think it's going to come in fast and it's going to leave fast. So with some of the things that we have in place, in which the town manager will be reporting in a couple of minutes, we are doing things correctly. We're doing them, I think, expediently, and more importantly, I think the residents will have this opportunity, if they need to get their boosters or vaccine or to get tested, we will have resources available to them. So we'll move on to the town manager report.
Thank you. So this is the start of my third week here. I've had the opportunity to meet with a large variety of the department heads. Some are still scheduled as they'd been on vacation for the holiday. I've met with several mid-level managers as well to get a handle on some of the programs that have some emerging issues. But the overall focus really has been on delivering services to the town of Enfield residents who are being adversely impacted with this surge of COVID. And that takes a couple of different forms. We have a lot of residents who have to test weekly and who, for other reasons, medically or their job responsibilities, choose to do so responsibly. And we do not have adequate services for them. So they're beginning to have an economic impact. And so standing up an additional testing site was something that was identified early as a priority after talking to many of the stakeholders. So tonight on the agenda, you will see that there is a recommendation that we fund some additional dollars to the health district to act as our subcontractor in order to see if they can source out a source of someone who would come in and provide testing locally here and in a convenient and accessible manner to residents who choose to avail themselves of that. They've done so before. They have the relationships, and I thought it was the most expedient use of some of our American Rescue Plan dollars, which are supposed to be directed to mitigate the effects of the COVID pandemic on a community, in order to get that up and running as quickly as possible. That would allow people to test conveniently. It would allow them to stay at their jobs. It would allow them to avoid some of the conflicts that they're having with having to really reschedule around testing availability. I'm sure if any of you have driven through town, and it's the same in other towns and cities, you're starting to see very early in the morning people line up at the places that are administering rapid and PCR tests. And so the demand is really exceeding the supply. And even with the expected downturn of this, once this plateau is reached, I still think that access to testing is paramount. So that is going to be coming up later in the agenda. In addition to that, I think due to the nature of this and the fact that some people are just very weary of going through all of these machinations, we have seen an increased ask and people calling, wondering if there are going to be additional vaccination clinics. Some of them are taking into account the fact that they have not yet scheduled boosters and are now interested in doing so. Some, fell ill during the holidays or were not able to gather because of it, and so they're having a different view of this as well. So the office has reached out to the Department of Public Health to see if we could access some of the additional Griffin vans that have been in the community in the past, and we were hoping to schedule that for next week at various locations at various times in order to make it accessible to everybody who chooses to avail themselves of that. Those are, again, free services that we would be bringing in for anybody who is so inclined. So those are the two big issues with this, and I think we're going to continue to chart some of these issues. Contact tracing has been temporarily suspended because it is overwhelming at this point. I believe the schools may be picking it up again once they're in session, and we're going to encourage everyone to continue to use appropriate protocols that they're comfortable with in order to really suppress the spread of this within the community. And only then, I think, are we going to be able to see some of these new strictures that we're trying to put in place. Then we'll have the opportunity to go back to the way things were late spring, early summer, when we really thought we were at the end of this. And hopefully, this will come to an end shortly.
Thank you. Town attorney report. Oh, yeah, Mike, question.
Hi, if you could, can we be specific on the testing? CDC, I think, just stopped the PCR test on December 31st, saying it was unreliable. So what test are we going to make available that is reliable? So So I think there's confusion. There is, because we're hearing some tests and it was stopped by the CDC. There's other tests that are supposed to differentiate between the flu, and COVID. So what tests are we going to make available for people? I think that needs to be specific, if you don't mind.
So at this point, it appears that the health district is going to be recommending that we follow all CDC requirements, which includes the acceptance of at-home test kits, which probably have the lowest verification rates, but it's more important for people to be taking it responsibly and seriously. So there are different levels, there are different, shall we say, isolation and quarantine strategies that accompany all of them. But at this point, we are going to accept all of them. And actually, it's on the other side of the coin is that not only is this a municipal issue, but we do have employee groups across private and public sector, nonprofits that are all making their own rules. And so some are still requiring PCR, some are requiring, okay, we're okay with a rapid, but you have to bring it to us. Some are requiring it to be electronically submitted. It's all across the board. So again, at this point, any test is being made available to Enfield residents is better than none.
Not arguing, but I think we talked about maybe having a 6:30. Actually, someone could come and explain the difference between the tests. Maybe that's why I asked about the health department.
Yeah.
I think that would help people, just to understand the differences, why one PCR level's at 40 and it's a false positive, but another test maybe at a PCR level of 25 where it's supposed to be, in theory, through CDC guide, again, quoting the CDC. It would be great to have the health department here to actually educate people on what tests are more reliable, even if there is a shortage, and I get it. So I'm not arguing that any test is reliable, but the CDC just canceled certain tests on the 31st saying they're no longer reliable, yet we're going to rely on them. You can understand the confusion that's out there.
Yes, I agree, and I think that's a
all.
great
Thank you.
idea.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. Counselor Finger? Oh, Counselor Pisner.
The tests that we're going to be doing, are they going to be free?
Yes.
Okay, so you won't have to show an insurance card?
So I do believe that if you have an insurance card and you have it with you and they accept it, that the healthcare provider administering the test is able to take what is called, I think it's a inoculation fee of some sort, an administrative fee that they can take for actually administering it. But they do not say no to anybody if you do not have an insurance card.
The only reason I'm asking this is I have a friend who is self-insured. She works for herself. And it cost her $190 to get a test because she had to meet her copay.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she went to an urgent care. Okay. So I'm all for a free test. But when they say free and then you hand over your insurance card and then I get on my statement that my insurance paid $70 or $80, then where's this $50,000 going? If it's going to be free, it should be free.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
Counselor Finger?
Councilor Maria had it, exactly what I was going to ask, so I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Counselor?
Yeah, through the mayor to the town manager. So you may have covered this, I'm just, and I might have missed it, but on the 7th and the 28th, there'll be the vaccine van at the senior center from 9 to 1 still, correct?
That is a separate clinic that had been prearranged by them. It is this Friday from 9 to 1. And then for those who are being vaccinated for the first time, that van will return on the 28th in order to administer the second shot. I do believe, though, that that is a limited number of vaccinations and shots that will be available across the gamut of that or booster shots. So they are advertising that, and that is available. But I would caution that if we have a long, long line show up for that, they're not going to be able to take care of anything past 100 shots per day.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Attorney Talbert?
Mr. Mayor, the only report I would make is that we had announced a CCM training on Saturday, January 8th, has now been removed to remote. So if you didn't want to travel all the way, there's silver lining, you could do it remotely from the comfort of your home on Saturday for all newly elected officials. And it's a new year, new laws. I won't go through them all, but effective January 1, 2022, there are going to be new land use training guidelines. They become mandatory 2023 for all land use commissioners, but we're going to start working, I was just discussing with the town manager, a block in 2022 so we can try to get ahead of the curve. So stay tuned for that later this year, because 2023 it will be mandatory, which is a good thing for all of our land use commissioners. And that's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for our attorney? Okay, all right. Reports of special committees. Are there any committees that have met that want to report anything? Okay, I know that we have on the 10th, DPW. We'll be finalizing up the ordinances and the fees, and that be looking forward to come our next meeting. All right. Old business, 12A, B, and C will remain on the table. New business, A, consent agenda action, B, appointments, town council appointed, C, appointments, town manager appointed, council approved, and we will be going to page 2, D, appointments, P and Z, commission appointed, council approved, there are none, and then E, discussion resolution, the resolution to adopt new and revised job descriptions and wage adjustments as part of the Department of Social Services reorg. The resolution is the resolution to adopt new and revised job descriptions and wage adjustments as part of the Department of Social Services reorganization. Do I have a motion? I think at this point, can we call up Cindy to answer questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll just preface this as the director comes to the front of the room. This has been a strategic planning exercise for the department, and I just want to draw a large picture of the fact that this is something, the strategic planning component is something that is going to be required across department lines in all cities and towns. It's something that is starting to get linked with budget outcomes, with how your bond rating agencies view your budget process. And I think that this is a great microcosm for us to see how this worked for this department, what those outcomes are going to be, and start thinking about how to implement these type of strategic planning processes in other departments so that you can link those accomplishments, the services that are supposed to be delivered, to how you plan your budget, especially from a capital standpoint. So this one happens to be revenue neutral, which is always great to see. And I also think it's important that as the communities change and as the changing needs of departments, it's always important to go through these exercises, because there's new challenges today that maybe the Department of Social Services wasn't serving 10 years ago because they weren't issues in a community. So this is always an opportunity to refresh and to make sure that those resources that are allocated to departments are being delivered in the most efficient and effective manner. So I'll turn it over to Cindy for her to let you know what's been happening with her department.
Good evening. Mayor Crissati, Deputy Mayor Sakala. Cindy Guerreri, Director of Social Services for the town of Enfield, and thank you for letting me come to talk with you tonight. Just as a little background, last May, the council approved use of funds for department strategic planning, something that hadn't been done in at least a decade, probably even longer. From July through October, we worked with a consultant who conducted a SWOT analysis by way of staff survey, interviews with department division heads, other department heads from the town, and a variety of community stakeholders. We debriefed the findings and emerging areas of focus with the division heads, and together we reaffirmed our vision for Enfield to be a place where all residents are healthy, safe and stable, and connected to their community. I also had meetings with the Director of Finance and Human Resources respectively, and with the Assistant Town Manager and Town Manager for feedback. The PowerPoint you previously received is a condensed compilation of that process, the findings, and the recommendations. The 4 areas of focus now serve as a roadmap for the next 3 years, and we'll start with the department reorganization that produces efficiencies, adds direct services, and is cost neutral to the town. I'm going to pause here to recognize that there will be change, and that change can cause some to feel anxious, about the unknown, the unfamiliar. And it poses a challenge to, but we've always done it this way. I offer likewise that change brings excitement and opportunity. Opportunity to improve how and what we provide for our residents towards an improved quality of life. We're currently organized around and driven by grants and various funder requirements. I call it the tail wagging the dog, and this is not necessarily our community's highest priorities that we're responding to, but more or less following a money trail. These grant opportunities by nature come and go. For example, our drug-free community grant is in its 10th and final year. We have these grant opportunities, and the nature of them can produce, has the potential to create siloed effect that can lend to costly inefficiencies and broken lines of communication. We are instead going to organize with a focus on the needs of our residents, grounded by an intergenerational approach of programs and services that foster resiliency to combat the negative, traumatic for some, effects of the pandemic and an ever-changing world. We will build off the strengths of our staff while also building their capacity, inclusive of cross-training, to continue to meet the needs of our residents in these very difficult, sometimes debilitating times. We will triage, assess, and connect folks to supports and services within our town and beyond. We will build on the power of our partnerships, expand them, and then collectively strive to strengthen our residents' abilities to grow and thrive. We will help some heal, walk alongside others as they navigate rough terrain, and help still others to consider the possibilities of a brighter future for their loved ones and themselves. And finally, we will continue to understand the needs of our communities by collecting data, examining trends, researching current and best practice, building responsive programs, delivering quality services that make a difference, while remaining responsible stewards of the resources afforded to us. Tonight you have proposed job descriptions which serve as the starting off point of us moving forward with the reorganization. And with that, I thank you for your time and consideration and support, and we'll answer any questions you have.
Councilor Finger?
Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
So these job descriptions, they were approved by both the unions and the HR department and yourself already?
So all of the union presidents were advised by HR of any impact to any of their people. So if a job description was changing, that union was notified.
Okay, and obviously if they had any issues, they would have brought them forward to the HR department.
Correct.
Yes, did it many years.
Yes.
A lot of years. Two, the job descriptions that I've seen, there are some here with some red additional lettering and job description changes, or addition, excuse me.
Yes.
Those are the ones that got revised?
Correct.
And the ones without any red are the ones that would be either new job description or stayed the same?
They're brand new.
Only thing I didn't see was like the job titles. That's the issue I had with the email I sent, was the job titles. I was a little confused. Met with the town manager. I'm good.
Okay.
Just want to let you know that, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because I just want to be sure before I vote on something, I have the information that I needed. So that was it, but thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet.
Councilor Ludwig?
Hey, Cindy, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you. Again, the grant manager, this is what was approved through the budget, correct?
Yeah.
So this is not really, this is a new job description?
No,
Or
same
just-
job description, wage adjustment. That was negotiated at
Exactly,
higher.
okay, good. And really, I know this is maybe not necessarily part of your reorg, but part of this is, doing the job descriptions that we've done in various departments over the years. This is so important how you, again, really, when we talk about government being efficient and getting more for your tax dollars, this is exactly what, every department's been going through. The data that you're going to be doing. So I think the taxpayers need to understand some of the data that you're going to be able to when you talk about understanding the community's needs, to your point, it changes on a daily basis. You can't do anything if you don't have proper data.
Right.
And I think that's what if you could just touch on that so people understand this reorg is actually hoping to make us, to get on those issues early as opposed to K-10, after a year, oh, we figured this out, right? And I think that's really important for people to understand as part of the reorg, how important that is, if you don't mind touching on it.
I'll be
High
as
level,
brief as
high level.
be as brief as possible because it's a big issue and I am a data geek and I could go on for a while. So data should be driving what we do because that's going to tell us what is important to the people of the community. Data is a requirement of even state commissioners. There's a state law that requires legislation and state commissioners to present their budgets to appropriations in the form of a data-driven process. So what are the numbers telling you? It's not always just numbers. It's anecdotal. It's stories. What is that telling you? What do we understand of that data compared to where it is that we want to be? And in our case, healthy, safe, stable, connected to community. How are we currently doing? And then you're going to look at research and best practice that then define your strategies. Then you talk budget.
Right.
You don't let the budget drive the train because
Exactly.
you do programming, you have a couple people show up, and then you really haven't made it enough of a difference.
Congratulations, I know you've been working on this for a while.
Thank
so
you very much. We're
congratulations.
very excited.
Yep. Councilor Pisner.
Since my election, I've had a couple of opportunities just to meet with Cindy and to speak with her. And most recently, I have an elderly neighbor that I referred Cindy to. And I can just say my conversation with you, I could hear your compassion and understanding of especially what our elderly are going through. So I just want to say thank you. You did help her out. She did meet with Jen. And, I think we're very lucky to have you in Enfield, and I hope you feel as lucky to be part of our community. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
I have a couple of comments.
Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for coming tonight and, really telling us, exactly, what this reorg is all about. And you put a lot of time and effort into it. I think the meeting that we had with the subcommittee, and you were spot on because, when you see the PowerPoint presentation and then your explanation, I think really hit home to everybody. The thing that I really like is the use of best practices and your data and your trends that you're going to be utilizing within your departments for the efficiency part of it. And I don't think, your department has had that. And I know people are anxious, and I know people don't like change, and that's pretty obvious, but change is good. And so I think for your department, it's going to be a 2 thumbs up for everybody. And so good work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We have a good team.
Well, thank you very much. So moving on to the resolution and to pass it. The resolution to adopt the new and revised job descriptions and wage adjustments as part of the Department of Social Services reorganization. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the wage adjustment of the following positions. Senior Operations Manager, $99,900. Operations Manager, Child, Youth, and Family, $78,000. Operations Manager, Transportation, $70,184. Clinical Care Coordinator, $70,000. Social Worker, $58,000. Youth Development Worker, part-time, $35,100. Senior Site Manager, $72,950. Site Manager, $68,264. Grants and Performance Manager, $74,000. Food and Nutrition Manager, $52,000. Lead Teacher, $50,288. And Lead Parent Educator, $53,507. Date submitted December 14th, 2021, submitted by Steve Belinda, Human Resources Director.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Sakala, a second.
Second.
Councilor Hopkins, any discussions or questions? I see none. Sheila, roll call, please.
Councilor Finger,
4.
Councilor Hopkins,
4.
Councilor Ludwig,
4.
Councilor Pisner,
4.
Councilor Santinella,
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
That's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Resolution passes. Thank you very much, Cindy. 14 items for discussion. A, consent agenda review, and then we go to B, appointments under Town Council appointed. Number 1, Zoning Board of Appeals. The term of office of Maurice LaRosa expires January 1st, 2022. Reappointment or replacement would be until January 1st, 2026. Do I have a nomination? Councilor Finger?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Timothy Neville.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor Despard, are there any other nominations? Okay, so
Second.
moved. Councilor Hopkins, all in favor of closing nominations? Okay, any against, any abstentions? 9 in favor. Are there any discussions in regard to this? Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Finger.
Timothy Neville, please.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Okay. Blight Review Committee, a vacancy exists due to the resignation of Jacqueline Bosco. Replacement would be until March 31st, 2022. Do I have a nomination? Councilor Hopkins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I nominate Jessica Martin.
Second.
Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Councilor Pisner? Are there any other nominations? Do I have a nomination to close? Okay, Councilor, Deputy Mayor Sakala, all in favor of closing nominations? 4, there's 9 for, none against, no abstentions. Sheila, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Jessica Martin.
Mayor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
All right, very good. C, appointments, town manager appointed, council approved, there are none. D, appointments, P&Z Commission appointed, council approved, there are none. We move to E, discussion resolution, the resolution to set a public hearing to amend the Town of Enfield tax increment financing policy. Resolution to set a public hearing to amend the Town of Enfield tax increment financing policy, whereas the Enfield Town Council adopted the Town of Enfield tax increment financing policy on June 3rd, 2019, and whereas the TIF policy was modified on April 6, 2021, and whereas the Town Council wishes to make additional modifications to the TIF policy, and whereas the TIF policy requires a public hearing for any modifications hereto. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, at 6:50 p.m. to allow interested residents an opportunity to express their opinions regarding the modifications to the tax increment financing policy prepared by Nelson Tereso. The date, December 17th, 2021.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Sakala, a second.
Second.
Councilor Santinella. Any discussions or questions? Councilor Finger.
Thank you. Question I have is in the past public hearings, we try to get them a little bit earlier. Why is this one 10 minutes before our regular meeting? I mean, we have a regular meeting that night, if I remember correctly, right?
Correct.
So why is it 10 minutes before our regular meeting at 7, in case we have people that come over and discuss it? I mean, I don't know. Just why I'm asking the question. I thought we were just going to start holding public hearings sooner than later. Thank you.
Okay. Nelson's on the air. Nelson, do you have any comments in regard to?
Sure. Good evening, Town Council. Happy New Year to everyone. Just give a little brief overview of what we're doing here. As you all know, the TIF policy and master plan was developed in June of 2019. One thing the TIF policy does is it provides the ability for the town to enter into a credit enhancement agreement with local property owners and developers looking to invest within the TIF boundary. As you know, we have two TIF boundaries here in town, two TIF boundaries within our TIF district. That's the Midtown boundary, which is the properties in and around Enfield Square, in our Thompsonville Village district. After we developed the policy and we began receiving inquiries from local property owners, developers looking to invest within Thompsonville, it became apparent that the application requirements for entering into this credit enhancement wasn't conducive to the Thompsonville district. And what I mean by that is, you know, the application requirements require for each project, a property owner would need to invest $500,000 in development costs for a project. And that really isn't conducive to those properties along Main Street, North Main Street, Alden Ave, High Street, Pearl Street, those commercial properties that may be in need of significant rehabilitation. You're not really triggering the threshold. So we wanted to provide the flexibility to have, for the Thompsonville district, a project that represents an increase in the assessed value of up to 50% of an increase in assessment in order to be able to receive any incentive from the town on a case-by-case situation, subject to the tax, subject to the TIF advisory committee review and approval and the town council's approval. That's the main change in this amendment. Other than that, we're just modifying some language and the thresholds for the application fees.
Okay, thank you, Nelson. Does anybody else have any other questions? Councilor Hopkins?
I just had a brief question about the change in the application fees. You know, what was it looking like before, or what are you hoping to change and attract differently now?
I mean, the application fee, we initially just had it at $250, and we were looking at other communities, what other communities in the state were doing. A lot of communities had a flat fee of $1,000 or $500, and some of the bigger TIF boundaries, industrial boundaries, had a $5,000 fee. So we're really basing it on a ladder approach where, you know, if you're really if you're doing a small rehab and we're entering into a credit enhancement agreement, really requiring the minimum of $250 non-refundable fee. If it's between $500,000 and $1 million of investment, we're requiring a $500 fee. And then anything over $1 million is a $1,000 upfront fee. It really just covers our end. It's really just an application fee. It's time staff to review the application. We are requiring that the applicant prepares all the legal documents, and it's really our legal time is really based on reviewing the agreement and not producing any of the contracts for the CEA.
Okay, thank you, Nelson. Councilor Ludwig.
Hi, Nelson. Just to be clear, so if you're within a TIF district and you're in one of the smaller businesses, again, you say case by case, just want to be clear though, there is some sort of scaling there, right? So if someone wants to, you know, if you're a business within that TIF district and you want to, just want to make sure there's, you know, again, when I mean scale, that one business, depends what they want to do with their, you know, enhance their business. And the money so is there a minimum spending that they have to do? Just so again, there's not like, okay, one business we're allowing it because they're spending X and the other one we're not.
Yeah, it's a case, like I said, it's all based on merits, and you need to, has to be a significant rehabilitation. You're going to need to increase your assessment by 50%. So if you have a $200,000, let's take for instance, 27 Pearl Street, Diana's Bakery.
Right.
It's on the market.
Yeah.
It's currently assessed at, with the parking lot, I believe it's right around $300,000. Now, if somebody come in and bought the structure and they need to put in new windows, a roof, completely, you know, even let's say they have to put on a second floor, you know, increase the size of the building, a transformation of the building, you know, that really would merit a credit enhancement because it's a significant investment. Would it be a $500,000 investment? Probably not.
You're saying 50%.
You know, you really just can't change your facade and ask for credit enhancement.
Right.
You got to transform your property.
So in theory, based on your math, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, so if you had 300 grand assessment and you were going to, whatever you're going to do, 50% of that, meaning you'd have to do a minimum of 150,000, right?
Correct.
Right, okay, thank you. That's, okay, that makes sense, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nelson. Appreciate it, thank you. Sheila, roll call?
Counselor Finger,
4.
Counselor Hopkins,
4.
Counselor Ludwig,
4.
Counselor Pisner,
4.
Counselor Santinella,
4.
Counselor Ungary,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala,
4.
Mayor Crisati,
4.
and Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Mayor Crisati, before you move on, I think we should probably ask Nelson's opinion about Counselor Finger's question in terms of, is 10 minutes enough for a public hearing, understanding that we may not want to run over into our broadcast time?
On my end, the standard protocol is always having our public hearings beforehand. I don't anticipate, it's not a significant change to the policy. It's really actually improving the policy to provide the ability for property owners to utilize the TIF. So I don't anticipate any opposition or any significant comment. But if we can move it earlier or whatever the council wants to proceed, I'm fine with the approach. But I think the standard policy is to have most of these meetings, these public hearings before town council meetings.
Yeah. Counselor Sakala?
I mean, just
Deputy
for,
Mayor, sorry.
That's all right. Just for reference, I mean, a lot of times these are 10, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 15 minutes before our regular meeting, because there is not a lot of public comment. We may have a couple of people, but it generally doesn't take more than a few minutes. There are your larger ones that have taken a lot longer, but I mean, Mike, I mean, you guys can,
Well,
generally speaking, you're 10 to 15 minutes before your
Right.
meeting.
I mean,
so
we'd
we're
have
not
to
sitting here
we'd
for
have to remove
55
the motion
minutes.
and do it all over again. You certainly can make the amendment, but it shouldn't, it shouldn't take more
We're
than
not
10
going to
minutes.
spend.
Yeah, no, I think we will be good with the 6:50 start, Doug. Okay. Yep, all right, very good. F, discussion resolution authorizing the town to submit Connecticut Communities Challenge Grant Program application to the state of Connecticut, acting by the Department of Economic and Community Development. Whereas the town has submitted to the state of Connecticut, acting by the Department of Economic and Community Development, an intent to apply form for a project entitled Enfield Higgins Park Town Center Project, and whereas the state of Connecticut, acting by the Department of Economic and Community Development, requires a certified resolution from the governing body of the town to be submitted as part of the grant application. Now therefore be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council authorizes the Office of the Community Development to submit a Connecticut Communities Challenge Grant Program application to the state of Connecticut, acting by the Department of Economic and Community Development, prepared by Nelson Tereso, Deputy Director of Economic and Community Development, date prepared December 20th, 2021.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Sakala, second by Councilor Despard. Any discussion or questions? Councilor Pisner.
Okay, so this is going for Higgins Park, correct?
Yes, it is.
Exactly. I thought Higgins Park was already taken care of, Nelson, as far as.
Well, the Higgins Park, a lot of the components have already been appropriated by the town. Those projects consist of, some of the planning, engineering, the parking lot, the playscape, the walking path, the band shell, the basketball course, the fitness stations, Alden Ave, 90 Alden Ave Gymnasium acquisition renovation. This is for the piece that was not funded and didn't get approved through referendum, the pool and the splash pad park. So the state released in October this notice of funding availability. It's $100 million of state grant money towards this program in the next 5 years. The state in December appropriated $25 million for this first round, and it needs it's for projects of with transit-oriented development, town center projects, projects that provide portable housing options to communities, mobility improvements, public space improvements, town center projects. So, when this came out, I really felt that, we met the parameters of the program guidelines. It requires a 50% match from the town, which we easily make. We've already appropriated, I think, close to, with all of the acquisition and the construction, we're at about $3.8 million worth of funding we've already appropriated. I'm going to be going for $4 million for this challenge grant. It may be a reach, but it's what we need in order to complete the project. I think us having the pool and the splashback park is really going to tie everything together, especially if we, renovate that gymnasium. It's really going to, bring the community in together. So I'm going to go in for the $4 million request. I want to get in front of the line. There's going to be about 3 to 4 rounds, and the sooner we apply, the better position we'll be to obtain the grant. And again, it's going to be improving livability, vibrancy, appeal of the communities, through the pandemic. They really want vibrant projects that appeal to the community. So that's the goal of the project, and I think I am going to submit as part of the application the plans and the estimates that have been provided by SLR on behalf of the town, and I've been working with the Director of Finance and the Director of DPW on the budget. So I want to make sure that we include everything, so we don't have to go back to the town again for any additional funding.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to verify it was for the pool.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. Councilor Hopkins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you speak a little bit about what makes a competitive grant application and what gives us the best chance of attracting that state money? Because it would be great to get that. It's a lot of money for the town.
Well, I mean, there's a scoring criteria, and a couple items we don't hit on. I mean, they like to see a public-private partnership, so they would like to see for funding. And that could be a future round near the train station if we're looking to support a housing development towards the station, and if there's a need for public infrastructure to support the housing projects. That positive scoring criteria. They look at, again, community upgrades, ADA improvements. How much is the town or the Economic Development Commission of that community putting into the project? So that's obviously working for us. We're actually close to 100% match, not a 50% match. So we have a lot of skin in the game. They like improvement of infill vacant and underutilized sites. One of the things I'm going to be mentioning in our grant application is, as part of the town's consolidation of town properties, we've moved youth and recreational services from the Lamagna Center. The pool and the splashback park is going to provide our recreational services department more programs in order to continue their programs here in town, which opens up that space around the Lamagna Center for redevelopment for TOD. So that's sort of the my pitch to the state is, while we're now doing the TOD project, the development of this park is going to help spur other areas that could provide significant investment from the private sector.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And also, shovel readiness is a huge component. And that's another thing we got going for us. Some of the aspects of Higgins Park have already been completed. So we're actually, not only do we have the funding appropriated, we're actually doing the work as we go.
Thank you, Nelson. Councilor Finger?
So, simple mind for me, okay? The town people shot it down in the referendum, okay? So now we're talking about putting it in. So can you just and I know you came up with all these numbers, but can you just slow it down a little bit for me? So what's the difference between the referendum that was turned down of the cost of the town compared to what the grant you're going to, if I worded that right?
Sure. Well, the town would still have to go back to referendum. We are not going to be able to appropriate $4 million over a 1 year period. The project needs to be done. That's another thing about these projects. You need to complete the project within 3 years. And And Higgins Park, as we already put a shovel to the ground, the goal is to complete the project as soon as we can, but we'd have to go back to referendum, in the fall. But, having the $4 million grant, I think will put us in a much better situation to get approved than we previously did with it, by just asking the town to cover the bill ourselves.
Thank you very much, Nelson. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you.
Sheila, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Okay, G, discussion resolution authorizing the contribution of funds to the North Central District Health Department for COVID-19 pandemic response. Whereas due to the increase in positive COVID-19 cases and the highly contagious nature of the Omicron variant contributing to community spread, and whereas the Enfield Town Council and the Town Manager's Office have received requests from citizens to establish testing and vaccination sites in the town of Enfield. Whereas the town of Enfield also encourages other member towns to likewise financially support the efforts of the North Central District Health Department to collaboratively mitigate COVID-19 with this region. And whereas testing and vaccinations are an eligible expense under the American Rescue Plan Act. Now therefore be resolved that the Enfield Town Council authorizes the Town of Enfield Finance Department to make a contribution to the NCDHD in the amount of $50,000 from the ARPA funds for COVID-19 pandemic response.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Second.
Second, Councilor Hopkins. Any discussions or questions? Councilor Pisner.
To the attorney through our mayor, I did email you today ARPA funds, and again, I want to make sure that this is going to Enfield residents, because is there something with the ARPA fund? I mean, if this is federal money, is there something that says we have to open this up to other communities to use this? I just want to make sure it's going to Enfield, that's all. It's $50,000 of our money, so.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Counselor, your email came in at 2 p.m. as I was getting ready to meet with the town manager, and so we didn't have a time to research or get you the answer yet, but we'll certainly follow up on that if there's any doubt about it. I don't know if you had anything to add on that.
I did bring with me the interim rule, which I'm very well acquainted with. It is an allowable expense. It would be no different than if we were contracting with CVS, Walgreens, et cetera. We can absolutely designate it for Enfield residents only. And I think I did respond to someone's question today. The language that appears in the resolution where we're encouraging other members is really our diplomatic way of saying to others that they should also be investing in the public health issues that our health district has been combating for the last 20 months. So it is an eligible expense. There's lots of language that covers it. And I think it's a fair question because all of you probably know, since you've had a lot of coverage on this topic since your election, the reporting requirements are very stringent, and we need to make sure that every one of those dollars is accounted for when we make reports to the Department of Treasury. But I would also like to point out in the list of potential ARPA projects that have been drawn up by the town of Enfield, not one of them to date addresses the actual root causes of the pandemic and its effect in terms of the health issues. So this would be another point on that list. You have projects, you have some transformative plans, you have some things that are going to be very good for Enfield if they're able to be put through using those ARPA funds. This one will actually add on the public health side that you've used some of those dollars to mitigate the public health impact within your community.
Thank you.
Councilor Ludwig.
Through the mayor and town manager, again, thank you for answering the question. My only concern, listen, I agree with this, but the health department's also getting money from the government and from the state, so I just wanted to make sure, that's all, that, again, we're counting every dollar on the town side, as you just said, and you're right, that, again, that people understand that they're getting money as well, and if they have a shortage, so be it. but if they can continue to come back and ask for us, because we already give them a significant amount through our budget, that at some point we were able to bring the health department here to sort of explain where they're, that's all I agree with this. You answered my question, but people need to know they are also getting taxpayer money.
Yes.
Again, federal money is taxpayer money, whether it's coming from the federal government or the state government, it's all taxpayer money. So I appreciate your answer. Just want to make sure that, again, if they come back, then we need to really have someone here from the health department to start explaining a little bit more what they're doing with their, tax money that they're getting. That's all. So I appreciate the answer.
If I may, to make 2 additional clarifications that I think would be helpful for the town council. The first being is that the health districts across the state have received significant federal and state funds in order to do their jobs over the last 20 months. That being said, for some strange reason, their funding through their last round has been expended through December 31st, and the health district has used all of those dollars. They are not set to receive what I think would either be the second or third wave of funding through those sources until March, which leaves that significant gap in funding. And second, they did not approach us. I want to be clear that it was my attempt in order to set up testing sites that I've identified the health district as the most applicable in order to get it up quickly with the least amount of bureaucratic involvement, because they already have relationships with testing agents, and they likewise have a relationship with us. So I approached Patrice, and amongst all the other issues that she's dealing with, she did commit to try to reach out to those vendors that she's using in order to identify someone who would commit to doing testing within the town of Enfield for Enfield residents. So just as a clarification, Counselor,
I
they
appreciate
didn't
the
come looking.
explanation. I just think it's
I
important.
went looking
Yep,
for them.
Appreciate it.
Perfect.
That's
Thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you. Yep.
Are there any other questions, Councilor Hopkins?
Just very briefly, I do think it's very important that we're able to get out ahead of this. We need these services in the community. I've heard from a number of people who are concerned about being able to get tested for their employment, and as well as getting their children tested for the various exposures that kids have. We need this. It's an important thing. I'm glad we're using a local institution as opposed to, nothing against CVS, but it's nice that the things stay local. So, and it's important to note, this is clearly for what this grant money was intended. It's very, very clear in that, and there will certainly be receipts because the federal government wants receipts. So, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for those explanations. Greatly appreciated. Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Mayor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
All right, there is nothing under miscellaneous. Public communications, is there anyone who wishes to address the council at this time? Okay, public communications are done. Councilor communications, Councilor Finger.
A couple of things. One is I did ask a question last time about the crosswalks on Tiller Road. Maybe next meeting I can get a report on that, please.
In going through last month's agenda, I did see that item, and I did forward you an email this afternoon. I did speak with the Public Works Director, and he is going to take it up because that is now an underutilized area. But he also said that he would like to speak with the Traffic Authority because there's many mid-block crosswalks that are very dangerous, and he wanted to evaluate with traffic input which one they would recommend in order to have it be reinstalled. He also said, based on the late date of me asking him to do that, we might have to wait for the spring in order to have it installed appropriately due to the weather.
Thank you very much. And Cindy Mangini wasn't here tonight because of her plane, so she emailed me, asked me to mention that. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any other communications? I just want to mention, just a reminder, once again, tomorrow at the Town Annex, beginning at 4 o'clock, distribution of home test kits and mass distribution, 2 test kits per, and 4 mass per household. So, and proof of residency is required. So, on that note, do I have a motion to adjourn? So, Councilor, oh, jeez. Councilor Ungary, there we go. In a second, Councilor Finger. All in favor? Okay, all in favor, nine in favor, none against, no abstentions. Thank you, and good night, everyone. Thank you.